What's up, Bears fans? Welcome to another edition of the Nick and Herb Show. I'm your host, Nicholas Moreano, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Herb Howard. Herb, what's going on, man? You have a different background? Tell us where you're at.
Yeah, man, I'm in my podcast studio for the Herb and Two podcast, which is a podcast I do that has absolutely nothing to do with sports. But if you guys are interested, feel free to tune in. We just wrapped up a taping here, and I thought I would be able to get back home and get set up for the Nick and Herb show. But things ran a little late here, so I didn't get back home, and so I am currently sitting in the Herb and Two podcast studio.
There you go. It looks real. I like the backdrop there, and people need to get outside of sports. So you need different mediums, and I think
Yeah,
that's exactly why you're doing what you're doing there. So I love that.
no, for
Um,
sure.
Herb, before we even get into like Bears talk and like getting deep into whether Ashton Jeanty is even going to be there for the Bears at number 10, I yesterday Chicago sports, they had
Man,
themselves a day. They
lit,
had themselves a freaking day. I mean, it started
lit.
the White Sox go and beat the Angels, score 8
Oh,
runs.
they above 500 for the first time in 10 years.
Let's
That's not
go.
fact. That's
Let's
me being
go.
silly, but let's
But
go
I mean,
Sox.
it's hey,
First
they
place
they
Sox.
opening day, they get a W. It was great to see. And then I mean, the Chicago Bulls. Herb, were you watching it all? Like I
I
wasn't
was
watching live, but I saw everything happen on social media. I'm like, oh my goodness, how did that end the way it did?
I was watching the game live. I was at my favorite bar and we were watching the tournament games. We were watching the tournament
Mhm.
games and none of them were, particularly close. And somebody texted my cousin text and was like, "Yo, the Bulls game is cracking. It's like 115 to 116 or something like that." So I turned and saw the last 12 seconds. That's what I saw. So I saw the three, the steal, the three. I saw uh AR-15 get to the bucket with ease and take the lead, and then I saw Giddy hit the half court. I was like, "Damn, this game is cracking." And so, everybody was making a lot of noise in the bar. It was fun, man. It was fun to see. And then I heard like how fun it was. I actually talked to kind of bring this full circle. I talked to Josh Blackwell, the Bears
Oh.
defensive back, and he was at the game. And he was like, "Man, it was crazy." He was like, "It was insane in there." I was like, "That's what's up, man. That had to be super, super fun." One of my friends, he came to the bar. He's the season ticket holder for the Bulls, so he was just coming back from the game. He was like, "Man, it was so live in there." I was like, "I can only imagine, man, because it was live here, and we weren't even close to the stadium."
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, I did see, now I'm glad you brought up Josh Blackwell because I was going through people's like Instagram stories who
Yeah,
happened to be at the United Center. I did see his, so I can't imagine what that would have been like to have, I mean, the steal to go up, then to, immediately lose the lead. But when I saw like when the Lakers went up, it didn't look like the Bulls players on the court like they didn't look defeated for
no,
whatsoever because it was like so quick where inbound to who was it? Patrick Williams, and then right
yeah,
back to
and then right
Giddy, and then
back,
he shoots it. Shoots a half court shot and holds up
and
the
he
J.
he
Like,
left
I
that
mean,
thing up there like
he
Mike.
left that thing up there, man. That
Hey.
was oh my I it was funny. My brother, he has a I haven't watched much Bulls basketball this season, but we downloaded Fubu to get like a little free trial. Like, let's watch this
Yeah.
Bears Lakers game. And he was watching it, and then it got to a point where it seemed like, oh, the Lakers are gonna win. So he kind of did something else.
Hmm.
And then like everything's happening and he ends up missing it. And then we have to all, rewatch it. I'm like, dude, this is the one time you watch the Bulls, you didn't quite finish the game, and then you missed like
Yeah.
the most incredible finish of all time. It was in freaking insane.
It's
But
kind of like
no,
one of
that's
those
awesome,
things
man.
where the fans think the game is over and they all leave out, and then they get outside the stadium like, oh, and they trying to come back in. What that
Mhm.
happened? What game was that this year? Uh,
I mean,
the
Minnesota,
Minnesota
I
game.
know.
The
Yeah.
Minnesota game.
Yep.
Yeah, when the Bears were down 11, and the stands start clearing out, and then by the time they get outside the stadium, they can hear all the noise, and they get in the reports, and they trying to come back in, and security wouldn't let them back in. It'd be like that, man. That's sports for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's reality. You don't know what's gonna happen. It's live entertainment, and that's what you love about it. And then, later on and, technically like the next day, the Cubs went out and did their thing against the Diamondbacks. But here, it was just really exciting to see like Chicago sports, I don't know, relevant and winning and being just, a positive for once, Herb. And like that usually isn't the case. I just hope that's not the peak. Let's not have Chicago sports peak in, March 27th of
Yeah, no,
2025. We need to see
no
that continue happening.
probably be the last time the Sox are above 500. So just enjoy it, roll with it, have a good
True,
time.
true, true. That is a good point. That is happened one of the best days of Chicago sports in a while. But what would also, I think, be a really good day for Chicago sports here, Herb, if the Bears get this draft right.
They have to,
And
man.
they have to get this draft right. They have so much momentum, I think, from the offseason acquisitions and how they rebuilt this offensive line, added to their defensive line. But now this is the next step in the process, really, for the
Yeah,
Bears
yeah,
to continue building this team, for Ben Johnson to continue, just having his fingerprints all over what this draft could look like. And I think there's been a big discussion, or I don't know, maybe even movement right now with that 10th pick. And I feel like every Bears fan that you talk to at this point in time, like there's a lot of Ashton Jeanty love,
yeah,
the running back from Boise State. And
uh,
we've kind of come to well, we're gonna have the discussion now about him,
yeah,
whether
yeah,
he should be an
yeah,
option, which I completely understand. I still know Herb at this point in time, and nobody knows. Again, like live sports, you just don't know what's gonna happen. The draft, you don't know what's gonna happen. But I swear to you, Herb, I went through about 7 mock drafts this morning, all from the NFL Network. 6 of the 7 have Ashton Jeanty gone at number 6
yep.
to
So the
the Las
Raiders,
Vegas Raiders. That's where
yeah.
he ends up going, and no Ashton Jeanty for the Bears.
Much ado about nothing ultimately, right? So, I mean,
Mhm,
it's fair to have the conversation. We've certainly, like you alluded to, the needle has moved on our show in terms of the conversation we've had around Ashton Jeanty. It's gone from not worth discussing to, all right, seriously worth considering. And now it's just, will he be there? And so I think
mhm,
the conversation has certainly progressed and advanced, and I think rightfully so. Watching the tape from his pro day was very, very impressive. I don't think I had seen the man without it with his shirt off until then, right? And this dude is like a little bowling ball. He's compact, he's only like
mhm.
5'8", but he is like ripped and jacked. And you can see the explosiveness, the quick feet, the instincts, the reaction, all of it was there, man. It's like, hey, that looks like a dude, like a real dude. So I get, why everybody is so intrigued and excited by him, but chances are that he won't be there. And shout out to everybody who does all of the mock drafts. I'm entertained by it. I appreciate it. I
Mhm.
don't do them because you just don't know what's gonna happen. And then by
Oh,
the
yeah.
time you get to like mock 10.0, it's like the person that fills out 15 brackets for the tournament for March
Mhm.
Madness. It's like, okay, I'm sure you had the right pick on one of them, right? Like, so
Yeah.
um now I get, things kind of change as you go through the process and get closer to it in terms of player acquisition and needs you may have filled going into it. So I do get it and I'm entertained by it, but I shout out to everybody who does it because I don't. Um, but I do think that he's probably going to be gone. I think people think that he's going to be that next generational back, and if he's going to be that, he's probably not going to be available for you at 10. And so the Bears have to be, prepared for whatever may come.
Mhm.
And when that pick does come, do they stay there? Do they pick somebody? Do they move back? I think if he falls to them, though, I think he might be the guy.
Yeah, like I mean, I honestly think that too as well. Like again, he is a difference maker, and I guess the big discussion I would have with whether or not he actually would be the pick at 10 is like how do teams value the running back position in terms of
Yep.
longevity,
Yep.
right? Like you that he's going to be an impact player day one. He enters that room,
But for
enters
how
and
long?
for how long, and when he gets that opportunity to get a second contract, will that original team even offer it to him? You know what I mean? Because we've seen so many of these high-end running backs that are productive throughout their career end up going, to other teams. You
Yep.
look at Saquon Barkley and the Eagles. Look at Christian McCaffrey now in the 49ers. Those weren't
Yep.
the teams that drafted him. And
No.
those are both guys that were labeled at the time generational backs. So
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that part of the discussion goes into a pick, or is it simply, you know what, the NFL is so quick to make these quick turnarounds on teams, player personnel, and you're not thinking almost that long term route because you need to get better
Right.
now.
Right.
So it is a fascinating discussion, maybe that I'm like thinking of, but I don't know if NFL teams are having that same one. But yeah, Ashton Jeanty, he makes Caleb Williams better. He's going to make Ben Johnson better. He's going to make the offensive line better. And I think
Balance.
those are three of the most important things that I can think of with this Bears football team moving forward. Is if you can get an impact player that can help out all three of those elements that I just mentioned, then why wouldn't you draft a guy like that?
It makes a ton of sense, man. I just know that they have to get it right, right? So you can do all these other things. You can hire the right coach. You can make the right acquisitions and moves in free agency or trade. But at the end of the day, the team has to be built through the draft. You have to get your draft picks right. You and I were talking offline about the Eagles trade for
Mm,
when they moved Carson Wentz and what they did with that trade. And I didn't even realize what they had done with the trade, right? And how they utilized those picks. You're talking about AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean. Like, it's insane what they did with the picks that they got from moving Carson Wentz. So you talk about getting a haul. It's cool to get the picks, and that's all on paper. But
mhm.
what do you do with them, right? What do you do with them? Do you actually hit on those picks? Do these guys become cornerstones in your franchise? Do they become playmakers and difference makers on the field? Do they get sacks and pressures up the middle? Do they get pick sixes in the Super Bowl? Do they score touchdowns in the biggest game of the season? Like, that's the type of situation and impact you want when you have these picks. So, the Bears talk about, we've been hearing for, 3, 4 years in a row, well, we don't really expect to be picking this high again. Okay, well, if you don't want to pick this high again, you better get it right when you do. And they got Darnell Wright at 10. You obviously got Caleb at 1 and Rome at 9, and now here you are at 10 again. You better get these things right. These people have to develop into pillars of your franchise. They have to turn into difference makers on game day because that's how you build your team.
No, I mean, that's a really good point. Those pillars also need to be there. I would think after that rookie contract expires. And
Yeah.
again, that's where it goes after to that Ashton Jeanty conversation. Will he even be, if he becomes a back that I think he's capable of being, he's going to be worthy of that second contract. I just don't know if how NFL teams also turn around that position. You go find the younger guy in the draft and let that guy make a lot of money in free agency. It'll be interesting how that plays out, but that's where also that's why most likely Genty's gone too.
Yeah.
We've been saying
Yeah.
6 of the Raiders has been such a pick that we think, I don't know, that a lot of people in NFL media think, and that's way different than probably what the NFL teams think, that he'll be gone. And if that's the case, Herb, do you have a guy that's okay, if Genty's not available, regardless of who the other picks are, who is your second guy? Is there a number 2 for you, or is Jeanty even number 1? How do you view it right now? If Genty's not available, you can't take him because he's gone. But we'll say basically everybody else is open except for maybe the obvious, like an Abdul Carter, stuff like that. Is there a number 2
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I still look at the Bears' biggest need as being edge rusher. Like, I still
Mm,
think they need to add to their defensive line. I don't think that they have waves of proven pressure from their defensive front right now. And so I look at a guy like Pierce from Tennessee, and I say, well,
mhm.
here's a guy with traits. Now, I don't know that he fits the mold of what Coach Allen wants in a defensive end, and so because of that, I don't know if he's a fit. I don't know if he's on their board. Maybe a guy like Michael Williams fits better just because of his measurables. Um, but I think they need to add to that side of the ball, and so those two guys become intriguing to me. I know people really, really love the numbers of what's the kid Stewart from Texas A&M.
Oh yeah, Shamar Stewart. Yep.
Yeah, I know people really love his size and speed and all that. There was no production in college, 1.5 sacks each of the last 3 seasons. So I'm not as intrigued by that as some people are. But either way, I think they have to add to that defensive line, man. I know when you talk about players like Ashton Jeanty and also Tyler Warren, I don't want to leave him out of this conversation either, because I do
Mm,
think that he is going to be a difference-making tight end in the National Football League. Now, you talk about running back and the conversation that you're having, which I think is a very, very good conversation. Are you talking about 8 years of production? Because that's ultimately what you're looking for, right? You're talking about getting through the rookie deal into your second contract and ultimately through the second contract while maintaining a high level of production. I
mhm.
don't know that you get that from most running backs, and that's a tough projection. Even if you look at all, his college
True.
tape and you look at his skill set, nobody can argue that. But this idea of getting through 8 years with high level production from the running back position is always, always a crapshoot, especially considering that it's a position that you can fill relatively easily. Maybe not the Saquon, Derrick Henry level, but you can still get adequate production from other backs. So that becomes certainly a part of the conversation that you want to have. And then Tyler Warren, man, I think he could be, that next tight end in this league. You saw what Brock Bowers was able to do his rookie year. You talk about, guys like George Kittle, obviously Travis Kelce, all these just phenomenal tight ends. Laporta, Hockenson, all of them. I
Mhm.
think he's going to be one of those guys. So I think that's certainly something you have to consider if he's there. And those two players are kind of those difference-making players that may transcend need, right?
Yeah.
We'll go past need here. Sure, we got Cole Kmet. I've been saying since last year that I still like what DeAndre Swift brings to the table, and I know you
Mhm.
want to get into some of the things that Coach Bieniemy said about him this week. But I still think that DeAndre Swift is a pretty good running back. But even still, if those two players you truly believe them to be, those generational type tight ends or running backs, then they can kind of change the conversation. But aside from that, if they're both gone, I think you got to go back to your need. And to me, that's on the defensive line.
I'm right there with you with the defensive line. Like right after the NFL draft, or after NFL draft, NFL scouting combine, I'm like, yeah, I'm leaning defensive line. But I will say this, Herb, just more and more as we've kind of gotten away from the combine and you see more mock drafts and you kind of go back to like the beginning of this, I still love the idea of Will Campbell. And now that he
Yeah,
apparently has 33-inch arms, his arms, are a little bit longer than they were once when they were
correct, correct.
measured the first time. I still like that idea. And I look at it this way. It's still those three factors that I mentioned that Jeanty impacts. Will Campbell would do the same thing. Helps out Caleb Williams, helps out Ben Johnson, helps out the entire offensive line. That's if Ryan Poles is viewing Braxton Jones as somebody that, maybe that ceiling is not much higher than what he's at. He's still coming off the injury. He just posted a couple days ago on his
Yeah,
Instagram story that, he's out that boot, as he put
yeah,
in his words, but he's still kind of gingerly walking a little bit. So I guess there would be some factors that go into it, but Will Campbell has shown you that he can still play. He can play tackle.
yeah,
He played at a high level at LSU. Unless Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, Ben Johnson just don't like the measurables or don't see him projecting as a tackle, then you don't make that pick. But if they do, gosh, you complete the offensive line overhaul. You really do if you upgrade the left tackle position, having your two top 10 picks at the tackle spot in between your new revamped interior offensive line. Then moving forward with Caleb Williams, you feel really good about what you have in front of him. And whoever you draft maybe in round 2 for a running back, whatever other weapons you would add in addition in this draft or later on, at least you have the line set. And
yeah,
with that, then you can maximize the abilities of whoever you end up drafting, even if it's not with a top 10 pick anymore, because like you said, you don't want to be drafting there anymore at this point from
right.
now on based off of what the team is and what it can be moving forward. So the idea of Will Campbell there at 10, that does intrigue me. So if it's not a defensive lineman, and like if Ashton Jeanty's gone, if that pick is Will Campbell on April 24th, day one of the or night one of the draft, I think the Bears finally committed to fixing a problem that wasn't just here in this last regime, but it's been here for regime, every single one. The
Yep.
offensive line is now I would put that as probably a top 10
Yeah,
unit,
go ahead
even
and
though they
say
haven't
it.
played. Like
It's a
it would
strength
be a
now.
top,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a absolute strength for this football team. And regardless of what weapons you have back there, I think Caleb Williams is going to have time with the new offensive mind that Ben Johnson is. So Will Campbell is definitely, I think he's been up there for me. But
Yeah.
now, and you know what? Honestly, I didn't give a crap about the 33-inch arms. Like
Who
it's
cares,
it's
man?
something that obviously teams will look at. But if he can play tackle, he plays tackle, and if he
If
can,
he
then he's
can
probably going to
play
be
it at a high level in the
yeah.
SEC, he can do it in the National Football League, right? These are the guys that they're turning out. So if he can do it and be productive and hold his corner against Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee and Florida, like, don't tell me he can't do it, because here are all the guys you're telling me are going to be the best pass rushers in the next wave, and he took care of all of them. So don't tell me he can't do it, man. I heard Tom Thayer talk about it. He said it's a
Mhm.
non-issue. He hates every time the conversation comes up. Tom Thayer played on the 85 O line. If he says it's not an issue, then it's not an issue. He talked about Jimbo Colbert not having the long arms. He's a Hall of Famer. Like so whatever. You know what I mean? So um I saw him do it. Now, if we were talking about a projection, right? If we're talking about,
Mhm.
moving a guy inside to, can he move inside to outside? Or if we're talking about a guy coming from a small school with lower level of competition and we're trying to project, then that's a conversation I'd be willing to have. But you're talking about a guy who performed at the highest level and came out on the other side rated as perhaps the top tackle in the country. And so not an issue for me. But man, you just got me excited, bro. I'm not gonna lie. The way you just talked about all that, all I was thinking about where you were saying that was finish it. Finish it,
Mhm.
man. It's time for the Bears to actually finish something, right? They've started this offensive line overhaul. Go ahead and finish it. And then listen, the Bears are not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Sorry,
Mhm.
newsflash, right? They aren't going to win the Super Bowl this year. But if they can complete one of these projects, then you can go into the next season and say, okay, now what is the final piece, or what are the final two pieces that we can attack via free agency and via the draft to legitimately be Super Bowl contenders, right? And the idea of finishing off that offensive line is really, really intriguing, right? I like Braxton Jones. I like him as a person.
Mhm.
I think he's a solid player. I think you can win with him. But I know that you can upgrade that position as well. And so if you're talking about getting elite left tackle play, somebody who could be a pro bowler or an all pro, because I don't think Braxton's ceiling goes that high. When we talk about all pro. If you can do that, go ahead, man, and finish it. And you put that kid next to Joe Tooney and let him learn his first 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
next to a Hall of Fame left guard. Man, now you cooking with grease now, man.
You
Finish it. I
definitely
like
are.
that.
Yeah, finish it is right. And you know what? I put it like this. I wrote an article about a week ago. Look, like you, I think Braxton Jones is a fine player, especially where he was drafted and being as available as he was. Obviously,
A
had the
win,
season-ending
no doubt, a
injury,
win.
but he hasn't played good enough to not be replaced. Right? Like that's how I view it. Like he's been solid, but it, is he replaceable? Probably, especially if you have a guy of Will Campbell's talent level. So that's how I view it as well. I've seen some Karan Amagaji, just some comments here in our chat right now, Herb, and like that's so what you were mentioning earlier. It's not like he Karan Amagaji would fit with actually what you were talking about. Someone that played at a lower level
Yep.
that you're projecting to now be elevated, that can go and maybe hang with the big boys in the NFL. Obviously did not go well for Karan Amagaji, his
All right.
rookie season. Injuries and, playing his first game starting against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Like, that's not the ideal way
It's
to
not
start a
ideal.
guy from Yale. It's not. It's not great. So, like, that still, like, obviously Ryan Poles probably thinks Karan Amagaji has a high ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm just not ready or maybe even willing to want to see that happen as a contingency plan to Braxton Jones right here, right now in 2025. Not yet. I don't know when you want to see it, but like that's just not where I'm not that comfortable with Karan Amagaji. He needs to show me something first, and hopefully you have other players in place to play left tackle before he gets out there. But just the way it ended last season, and I get it, he was dealing with some circumstances, but if you're Caleb Williams, like you already were behind the line that got you sacked 68 times. He was a part of that, but that probably wouldn't be the move for me.
Yeah, man. I'm getting very afraid of what this Karan Amagashi situation is, right? Because it's starting to look like maybe a wasted third round pick. And I don't know that I don't even really mean that to say I think the kid is a bust. But say Will Campbell is there, you pick him. Now, what the hell do you do with Karan Amagashi? This is a third round pick. You expect third round picks to be contributors and to develop into starters for you, right? So now you've wasted a third round pick on a left tackle who's never going to start for you because Will Campbell's going to be there for a decade and Darnell Wright's going to be there for a decade, and you got Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson. Like, where does he play? And I think it's starting to be a real thought that maybe that was just a completely wasted pick. And he has the traits that they like and the long arms and all that. And he's got good
Mhm.
feet, but that's a projection. It's a huge jump from Yale to the National Football League. And then where do you even put him, right? I want to go back to you talked about his first game, man. And I've said a lot of times that the Minnesota Vikings stadium, US Bank Stadium, is my favorite stadium in the National Football League. And that includes SoFi, that includes Cowboy Stadium, that includes Allegiant out in Vegas, which all are phenomenal. The new Falcon Stadium, Mercedes-Benz, like all that's super dope. But my favorite stadium is US Bank in Minnesota. Nick and I sit next to each other at most of the games, home and away, really. Um, and it's hard to communicate just talking to Nick right next to me. It's that loud in that place. I know the Bears have a really, really intriguing road schedule this year, going to places like Philly and back to Vegas, and they're going to all these cool places. Listen, Bears fans, for me, I would encourage y'all to go to Minnesota and just
Mhm.
experience that environment, that stadium. Now, the city or whatever, if you want to get out and do other things, then maybe you do want to go to a place like Vegas or Philly or whatever. But if you're talking about just the football environment and you have not been there and you're like, well, which one of these road games? I'm going to go to one of these road games this year. Which one should I go to? I would encourage you to go to Minnesota because that is an environment that I haven't really experienced at any other place, man. It's really, really cool. It's really, really loud. And so when they threw Karan Amagaji out there for his first
Mhm.
start, his first action, he was in trouble, man. And so I don't even want to judge the kid off of that tape. Obviously, you couldn't put him back out there after that tape, but I don't even want to judge him off of that tape because it was just a very, very tough situation that they threw him in. Similar to, what the Bears threw Justin Fields in his rookie year out there in Cleveland when Myles Garrett and them tried to
Yeah.
kill him. And so it was just an impossible situation for Karan Amagaji. But I still just fair or not, I just don't know where he plays and how he plays. And then you have to come in the question, did you waste a third round pick? And are you talking about a swing tackle? Like that's not what you want in the third round pick, right? Nobody, if they do go out and draft a Will Campbell, like you don't want him to miss time. You don't want Darnell Wright to miss time. So then what are you doing with this third round pick that you reached on the kid from Yale for?
No, it's a really good point. I mean, honestly, Ryan Poles needs to have that discussion with himself about just third round picks in general.
Mm,
I mean, Bayless Jones Jr. also comes to
mm.
mind. I mean, you have Karan Amagaji, so it's just been that round for him. I see, we have people in the chat here, talking about Karan, and like he also played the second most snaps he played in his rookie season was that game at Washington. And that was a kind of a spot, not a spot start, but he had to fill in for Braxton for a little bit in that game as well. Um, and just looking again, I would have to go back and really rewatch that game to see what he did. But just looking at the PFF grades, he did give up 4 hurries and had a pass block rating of 43.6. So I don't know if it was all that pretty for Karan, but I mean, going out there, that was an environment too that was insane to be at, and we all know how that one
Yeah,
ended. But
and again, I'm not really even trying to indict him as a player yet. I don't know enough to even make that statement. We
yeah,
didn't get to watch him up close all summer. He was hurt, right? So obviously
hmm
we aren't at practice during the season. And then we saw the minimal tape that he had, once he was able to play during the season. Not great, right? You going through some of the numbers. We talked about the first game in Minnesota, like not great. But that's not to say that he can't be a good player. All I'm saying is we don't know that. And if they do draft a Will Campbell or a Mimble, like where is he going to play?
yeah.
And now you're talking about a third round pick that has no home, and it's like, well, damn, what else could we have done with that third round pick? Who are some of the players that went in the third round, after that pick? And so those are just things you got to consider. And sometimes, bullets get to flying in the draft, and you do things and you hope they work out, and then boom, it doesn't. But just the fact that they picked him, right? Just the fact that they picked him lend some credence to the fact that they're looking to upgrade from Braxton Jones. Just the mere fact that they picked him. They
Yeah.
didn't pick him. They didn't pick him to take Darnell's spot. So
Nope.
who you pick him? You picked him in the 3rd round to take whose spot? Braxton Jones. So do you think do you, in your mind, you think, hey, I'm still right about this kid. He can be the guy that replaces him, right? And let them compete all summer and see, okay, if he's healthy, can he take that spot from Braxton? I don't know. I'm not saying he can't, but I don't know. I do not know.
Yeah, I don't think we can know what Karan is or isn't. He played 126 snaps in his rookie season.
Yeah.
That's all he's got. And again, people are mentioning like he didn't have the camp. He didn't have a camp. You're right. So there's just a lot of uncertainty with Karan Amagaji as he enters year 2.
How can you be comfortable putting them out there to protect Caleb's blindside right now? How can you say with any modicum of confidence, hey, I'm good putting him out there? Now you done did all this to this O-line, and then you put the kid whose last, real football experience when healthy and ready to go was at Yale. Like I don't know how you can do that, right? If you talk about Caleb being the franchise. And so, maybe he impresses you enough over the summer, right? Maybe they go about evaluating him, new O-line coach, new head coach, all that. Maybe they go through the full process and they feel comfortable putting him out there to protect Caleb's blindside. But as we sit here at the end of March, I don't know how you can feel that way.
No, yeah, same here. It is a projection, and hopefully with this camp, this new Dan Rochar as the offensive line coach, you do see some better things. And again, practicing alongside a guy like Joe Tooney, who's been in the NFL for years and all pro, that also would probably benefit a young player in Karan Amagaji. But yeah, it's too early to say what he is or isn't, but there is some question marks for sure.
I feel the same about like Austin Booker, right? So you talk about, him being involved in these waves of defensive linemen. And I like his traits. I like his mentality. He believes in himself. He works hard. He's one of those guys with a high motor. He's going to finish the play, always running to the football. But he's got to get a little bigger. He's got to get some counter moves to be able to finish at this level. And so I look at him and, people were talking about, it was the 4th round pick. The Bears went up and reached for him. And it's because the Bears were done. They didn't have any more picks. And then they traded a 4th this year to go up and get him in the 5th, right? Last year. And so, people are like, oh, you kind of threw that. I don't think they threw the pick away at all. What I think, at least what I see, I saw a kid who came out with a lot of traits. Obviously underweight, was going to need to gain weight, was going to need to refine some of his rush moves. And a lot of people projected him to be, maybe even available to pick higher. And so a lot of people think if he came back to school this past season, then coming out in this draft, he may have been a 2nd round pick or something like that, right? So if you have that kind of projection on him, then really what you were looking at last year was a redshirt season. Now, would you rather him have that developmental year at Kansas or in the National Football League for the Bears? He had it in the National Football League for the Bears. And if you think he would have been worth a 4th round pick this year, then that's all you essentially did for it was give up, was pick him in the 4th round this year. But now he's had a developmental year already in an NFL system. So I'm not done with that pick. I still think there are some things to be gotten out of Austin Booker and some things to really, really like about his traits. And you hope he can be a productive guy as a part of the rotation. But again, you still got to add to that thing because you're talking about projections. You're talking about hoping that a guy can kind of turn that corner and take that next step. You need to continue to add to that spot. Again, just finish it, right? If you're going to finish the offensive line, finish the defensive line too, right? There's a ton of those dudes. And so if it's not going to be at 10, it could be at 39, it could be at 41. There's a ton of defensive linemen. Go ahead and finish this thing, man. Finish one of your projects that you started, man. Don't do all these things and then right at the last minute, like, oh, I'm not going to put the last coat of paint on it. No, finish it. Be done with it, man. And then move on to the next project.
No, I mean, the Bears have done a good job starting a lot of these projects that they need to get started on. They put it off a little bit, but they finally started them. And now, like you were just saying, Herb, let's get that extra defensive lineman, get that extra offensive tackle, and say you're officially done with it. And also Booker, too, only 283 snaps last season, really had the only 1 year at Kansas. So, again, he is a guy that you're projecting a lot out of, but he does have some traits. He does have that length. Does need to add weight. If he can do that with the rotation that he's in with Odengbo and Sweat, hopefully he gets more of a role this upcoming season. But I agree with you there, Herb. I know earlier you mentioned that, we were going to talk about really quickly what Eric
Yeah.
Bieniemy said about DeAndre Swift. And this is on the Chicago Bears official podcast. And, just had a sit down conversation with Jeff Joniak. And when he was asked about,
This is Eric Bieniemy, the Bears' new running back coach. For
Yep.
anybody who doesn't know, I know most of you guys do.
Yeah, and so this is what Eric Bieniemy, Eric, and just kind of reading the quote that he had. Bieniemy wants to help Swift realize that he can pick up the medium gains and have home run ability as well. I'm reading this off of Bears Wire, who had the quote here, but this is the quote that Eric Bieniemy had on DeAndre Swift. Now, more than anything, we got to make sure that he understands that he can find 4.5 between the tackles, but also hit the home run when he needs to. Bieniemy said on the Chicago Bears podcast.
Go get that 4.5.
Got to get that 4.5, Herb, especially when that's all that is there to be gained. I know like some people are taking this quote and be like, oh, did Eric Bieniemy take a shot at DeAndre Swift? I don't think that's at all the case. I just think that Eric Bieniemy, watching now some film of a guy like DeAndre Swift, saw a guy that was maybe looking for the home run a little bit more time than he needed to, bouncing things outside. And, he did have success out there. That's the thing. We saw some really explosive plays from DeAndre Swift when he was able to get that edge, get out in space, make somebody miss, and take it to the house for a long touchdown. But it's going to be now with this revamped offensive line, especially on the interior, to be a good running back, to keep your offense ahead of the chains. It is about getting those 4.5 yards and not getting the home run in every single rep. Because again, defenses are going to try to they're going to limit those explosives. That's the whole
right.
That's the whole like freaking identity of a defense. Don't let the big play happen.
Right.
So for DeAndre Swift, I think that is a fair criticism to want to, even when maybe it's not what your natural instinct is to go for to get the small yardage because you want the big gain. Like that would be an area that if DeAndre Swift can improve that, now you're talking about a more effective player alongside what we expect is another draft pick in this upcoming draft.
Yeah, I think you're hearing a coach just be direct about what he wants from his back on a given play. Eric Bieniemy has been coaching running backs in this league for a long time, right? At a very, very successful with a very, very successful track record, right? Going back to Adrian Peterson with the Vikings and that, like there are certain plays that by their mere design should get you 4 yards, right? This is what this play is designed to do. When I was coaching high school football, all the way at the high school level, you're talking about, I would tell my backs, okay, this play is a 3-yard play, right? Now, after you get the 3 yards, I don't give a shit what you do. You want to bounce it out there, you want to go that way, you want to do whatever you want to do, but you get the 3 yards first. And we understand that. So when a certain call comes in, this is what it is. And then after that, you can get as creative as you want. You want to bounce it? Cool. I won't say nothing to you, right? But if you don't get the 3 yards, your ass is coming out, right? Because you got to get to where it's designed to go. This is a 4-yard run. This one should be a 6-yard run. After the 6, do whatever you want. But stay on the track until you get the 6. And then you can become as creative as you want to be, right? But get what's there first. And so that's all I think Bieniemy saying. Get what's there. If the 4.5 is there for you, get that. And then you can try to bounce it. Every play ain't going 50 yards. Every play ain't going 60 yards. That's just what it is. Like you said, defenses they're trying to make sure you don't get that. But if we scheme this thing up and there's a crease and we got it blocked up well, there's your 4. Get the 4, and then you can do whatever you want. The issue, though, in defense of DeAndre Swift, I don't know how often the 4 was there last year, right? And so you said this thing is blocked up like this. And I don't know how many times you can go back through Bears tape last year and say, okay, this is how it's supposed to be blocked up. And boom, that's how they blocked it up. That's exactly what I saw on tape. I don't know how many times you can find that on tape last year from that Bears offensive front. And so what happens is he starts to lack confidence that is going to be there. He starts to lack confidence that it's going to be blocked up the way that it is. And so even if it is blocked up to get the 4 yards right there, he's like, I doubt it. Nate Davis ain't doing that shit. Let me bounce it this way. And sometimes that gets you in trouble, no doubt about it. But I think that with this new interior offensive line, he's going to have a great level of confidence that what's supposed to happen is going to happen. And then he's the last part. People look at the running game, they think the running back is the first part. He's the last part. His job happens last on the running play. And so those three guys in front of him now, I think they're going to do their job. And now you got to do yours. You got to get the 4.5, and then you can try to bounce it.
No, really good points there, Herb. And two, I don't know if you saw this, but Eric Bieniemy, there were some clips going on Twitter about him and how he used to be with Adrian Peterson. Like, dude is a hard ass. And I love that about him. I do love that about him, because that's going to make these running backs so much better, I believe. If they take the coaching right, he's going to make sure that you do stay disciplined for those 4 yards on this track when you're supposed to. And not only does that, make the play successful, but the offensive line knows this too. Like, dude's supposed to be off my hip. Where is he at? And if it's all blocked up and you watch it on film and he's dancing around the backfield, that's where things can get. That's where those trust issues, I think, happen a little bit, whether it's on DeAndre Swift or the offensive line in front of him. But if you have that disciplined coaching in the first place, which Eric Bieniemy has shown that he will, I think, hold players accountable. I'm really, interested in just talking to him for the first time. But that, I think, is going to be a part of this running backs room. Not that Chad Morton wasn't doing that, but I just know that Eric Bieniemy is about that. Just seeing things that have been surfacing on the internet recently.
He's going to hold guys accountable, right? He's not here to be, super friendly with you. I'm here to get the most out of you, right? And this is my way of doing it. Like it or not, this is my way of doing it. I know it works. I've got a track record that it works. Do you want to be your best? And if you do, here, let's do it right. And I think that trust relationship that you were talking about, it does go both ways. It's not just about the back being able to have trust in the offensive lineman. It's about them having trust in him too. Is he going to be where he's supposed to be? Because that changes the angle for what I'm trying to do. If I'm expecting you to be on this track, then I know the point I need to get to. Now, if you didn't move and did some other shit, you get the linebackers to do something else too. And now I look like I'm out of place. Like, you need to be where you're supposed to be. You talk to some of those guys from those early 2000s Bears teams, and listen, we're talking about the greatest return man of all time. But you talk to, Jason McKee, you talk to Israel Adonijah, you talk to these guys, and they're like, man, we blocked so hard on those returns because we knew Devin was going to be there. We knew he was not afraid to hit that hole. We knew he was not afraid to cut it back. So you can't take off on the backside. You can't, everybody is ready on their man because they know this could be a big return. There was a mutual trust between Devin and the other 10 guys on the field that went both ways. And so you got to have that between a running back and his offensive lineman. And then that's when you can get the 4 and the 5, and you can get those receivers to block, which we hear emphasized by Coach Johnson. You get those receivers to block. That's when you turn the 5s and 6s into 70s and 80s.
No block, no rock, right? That's what Ben Johnson was saying at the NFL scouting combine, right? And that's why it does take the whole. It's not even cliche. It does take all 11 in the run game. It truly does. Like, everybody needs to be on their assignment, blocking to what the best of their ability, and to how it's schemed up for these plays to actually pop off to be what they draw them up to be. So it makes so much sense. But that's why I think we love the game of football. It takes so many people to make certain things go the way that they envision, and that's when the beauty of it is when you do see those plays executed to perfection. It's like, damn, that was a good play call, and everybody, all 11 on the football field did their respective jobs to make that play happen. And I also love too, Herb. I mean, Chicago, we're talking about the Chicago Bears, and there's been such a focus and emphasis on the running back spot. Like, it's so like Bears, right? To be talking about the running back, everything that it means to this franchise, but how it's also this position coming back to relevance, right? In the NFL, with how just, again, some of the guys who have done it just even this past season, but with Ashton Jeanty conversation too, like it kind of feels full circle fitting to be talking about the running back position, as much as we have been, and we will continue doing as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. But Herb, I think we have there hasn't been too much, I think, news with the Bears as of late. I mean, we're all kind of just waiting for the NFL draft. But any big plans that you have happening over the weekend, or any last final Bears topics that you want to get off your chest here?
No, man. I think that hounds it all, man. We just a little under 4 weeks yesterday, 4 weeks exactly yesterday
Yeah.
until the draft is here. Looking forward to it, man. Like we've been talking about, the Bears have obviously filled a lot of needs. They've created some flexibility for themselves in the draft, and I just got to wait and see how the board plays out. I am going to shoot down to the league meetings. I think Sunday or Monday. Shoot down there, and so we'll do some content and check in with what's going on down there. Um, Hopefully they don't, do too much in terms of changing the rules. All this talk
Hmm.
about changing the tush push is weird to me, man. It's really, really soft. Like, don't change the rule if it's an injury concern, if
Yep.
it's you know boring or whatever. But don't change the rule because y'all can't stop it. That's foolishness, right? It's you got 11 people, I got 11 people. If
Hmm.
I'm not doing nothing that's gonna, puts anybody at any higher risk for injury, why y'all talking about changing the rule? For what? Because the Eagles good at it? That's no, stop it.
And it was the Packers of all teams that submitted this to the soft. That's what that is.
Soft.
That's soft.
Soft.
Get out of here, man. Like, yeah, no,
Soft,
I agree
man.
with it. If it has nothing to do with injury, which the NFL they track these things, and there wasn't any more or less
Nope.
injuries on that type of play. Then what do you exactly? If you're doing it for the sole purpose because hey, the Eagles have just perfected it, we can't stop it. That's on you. That's
That's
on.
like
That's on. Yeah.
that's like when they said Kareem and Will couldn't dunk no more. Like what?
That's
Like
on you.
that's on you. Like deal with it. Deal with it, man. I hate that. So I hope that doesn't become a real thing. But we'll see what they come up with, man. But yeah, that's the plan for early next week, and we'll see what comes from that.
I'm looking forward to hearing all the updates there, Herb, and make sure if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the It's the Bigs YouTube channel. Check. I mean, again, there'll be plenty of content there, but also follow Herb Howard, Herb Howard 411, myself at Nicholas Moreano. There'll be plenty of Bears updates as we continue to get closer and closer to the 2025 NFL Draft. But thank you everybody for hanging out with us on your Friday afternoon. It's a beautiful day outside,
Yeah,
Chicagoland
man.
area. Get out there, hang out, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you all guys next week. But until then, bear down, Chicago.